Welcome to the box office top 10 rundown for the week, the 10th to the 16th of January 1992, and no longer in the top 10, but I can say Star Trek Undiscovered Country is one of the forgotten gems in the Star Trek movie universe, has just about everything a Trek movie should have. Highly recommended. Just about clinging to the top 10 is Bugsy, this period gangster piece starring Warren Beatty and his soon-to-be wife, Annette Bening.
Looking, sweet-talking, charm-oozing fella with nothing to offer but some dialogue. Why don't you run outside and jerk yourself a soda?
Who are you referring to? Your preening fruitcake?
If I were you, I would get that money back by 7 o'clock tonight.
Famous isn't good, Ben. For Clark Gable, it's good. For Joe DiMaggio, it's good. Famous for you, it's not good. Ben!
Worth it just for the line, jerk yourself a soda, but overall I found Bugsy a bit of a lackluster affair. Sort of been there, done it before, and not as exciting as I was hoping. Bening is engaging as ever in an underwritten role. On to number 9. And it's back into the top 10 for this indie hit with an all-star cast including Danny Glover, Steve Martin, Mary Louise Parker, who's also in Fried Green Martyrs around this time, which is just outside the top 10, and also Alfred Woodard. 40 million this would score worldwide. It's Grand Canyon.
Seems to be so many ways to buy it, particularly in this city.
You ever been to the Grand Canyon? When you sit on the edge of that thing, you just realize what a joke we people are.
What is the theory on this handkerchief thing? I mean, after you blow your nose in it, you put it back in your pocket, and then you see someone in distress, and you, give them this gift from your pocket, and they're supposed to be grateful as they wipe it all over their face?
I'll catch up on Grand Canyon for next week's rundown, but man, based on that trailer, it really could go either way. I'll see what I think next week, but I'll leave it for Mary Louise Parker to have this eloquent last word.
Married men suck.
Holding strong in the top 10 at 8 is this very slick, very stylish, very macho, but kind of entertaining in a Dumbo, silly sort of way. It's The Last Boy Scout, this twist on the buddy cop film, and with an endearing performance from a very young Danielle Harris.
So you're gonna bribe some senators to legalize gambling?
Legalize sports gambling.
No. Son, we're going to a ball game.
Over 50 million now stateside for a film which really shouldn't work but kind of does. That's The Last Boy Scout as we move on to number 7.
Is anyone here?
Mama, there's a girl in the castle.
Good.
A girl!
This week's number 7, the Oscar-nominated and winning Beauty and the Beast, one of Disney's most beloved animations, still going very strong as it nears the 90 million mark in the US alone. Really good, really strong stuff from Disney here. As we move on to number 6, another Oscar contender.
Who you scared of, Dave?
Me? I'm afraid of everybody. Ow. Get off! Everybody.
Oliver Stone's near 3.5-hour epic JFK is holding steady in the top 6 this week. It's the 4th week on the chart for JFK, his historical in-depth look at the assassination of Kennedy and the fallout and the investigation with Kevin Costner well cast as Jim Garrison. It's got close to 40 million domestic at this point. That's JFK. Into the top 5 for this new entry, this action comedy starring Christian Slater, which is basically a mix of Beverly Hills 90210 and Beverly Hills Cop, and it enters with about 6 million in total domestic, but it really isn't as cool as hip or as edgy as it thinks it is. It really goes for profound and entertaining, but it really misses the mark on so many occasions. Slater has watched Notice anything about these themes? Still holding steady in the top 4 and still doing really solid business is Steve Martin's angst-ridden father in the likeable Father of the Bride remake, a film that was a surprise hit perhaps and which coined a sequel just a couple of years later. Still a really solid crowd pleaser all these years later. That's Father of the Bride. Dropping 2 to number 3 is last week's number 1, Steven Spielberg's Hook, which may not be the director's most fondly remembered film, but it was certainly ranking it in here. It's its 4th week on the chart overall, and it's gained a total of 92 million at the domestic box office.
Sick and tired of you never showing me any respect in my own house.
There are families who live out their entire lives without a single thing of interest happening to them.
Anyone else nodding off to that dreary voiceover? But somehow the Prince of Tides is up 1 to number 2 this week. Who the hell is watching this? It's got around 40 million domestically at this point, but I thought it was a real dud, a real bore fest. That's the Prince of Tides, this week's number 2. And we have a brand new entry straight in at number 1. Well, does anybody else remember when Rebecca De Mornay was one of the hottest stars in Hollywood? Carl Pilkington surely does.
Said Rebecca De Mornay, right?
What? Oh, where did that come from? She hasn't been in a film for 15 years, has she?
Clive Warren and Rebecca De Mornay. They thought he was a genius. They've never thought of putting Clive Warren with Rebecca De Mornay.
But hang on a minute, you could have any film star. This is your fantasy casting, and you choose a bloke that doesn't exist and a woman who hasn't been on TV or in a film for 10 years.
Yes, straight in at number 1, it's Curtis Hanson's thriller The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, making a strong start to life on the chart with a 10 million opening week domestically. It appears in 766 theatres at this point, and it's the film where Rebecca De Mornay, a relatively unknown, stars as the psycho nanny who seeks revenge on the woman who was responsible for a creepy doctor husband getting struck off and committing suicide. A rather convoluted entry into this film. It's a mixed bag, to be honest. Rebecca De Mornay, definitely one of the highlights, definitely playing convincing. The other characters are a little bit dull, although Julianne Moore does add solid support as the feisty yuppie friends of the main couple, and Ernie Hudson is very likeable playing handicapped. So The Hand That Rocks the Cradle is available on Disney Plus now, and I can also say Curtis Hanson would go on to be one of the names of Hollywood over the next sort of decade, and later in the decade he would make what is for many the American film of the 90s. That's LA Confidential, but here's a bit of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle to play you out. See you next week, guys.
The Bartells couldn't believe how fortunate they were to find Peyton.
I adore children, Mrs. Bartell. I love being with them. I love taking care of them. For me, it's the next best thing to actually being a mother.
An attractive woman take a power position in your home. All I'm saying is you have to watch your back.
Now, their innocence is her opportunity.
He has your eyes, you know.
anything happens to my mommy, would you take care of me?
Of course I would. She's turning on me, Michael, just like you said she would. Anyone can have an accident. Goes around, comes around.
The hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world.
To my family.